Welcome to another tale of SugarPunch Tabletop Legends. Today's tale is about my very first time playing a complete module game, and also the game that featured the single most character deaths I've ever witnessed in a campaign. A body count of 6 player characters. Why? Because we were playing Tomb of Annihilation, and with players constantly fluctuating in and out of the group, none of us were ready for this death trap of a game. For this game, I played as Sheena, a centaur druid. Friendly and amiable, she is a guardian of the Emerald Enclave, and she left her home in the plains to travel to Chult and investigate the mystery of the death curse that blocks and cancels the divine magic of resurrection. Sheena departs from Port Nyanzaru with her companions: Dove, a kindly and elegant Asamar; Elias, a dour and snarky Yuan-Ti; and Go, a scrupulous monkey man of criminal background and devious disposition. The group hired a guide named Musharib, a dwarf who agreed to lead the group through the jungle as long as they venture to an ancient dwarf city and reclaim Moradin's gauntlet from a temple overrun with fire newts. Agreeing to his terms, the group departs into the jungle, setting a course for the forgotten city of Omu, where the dreaded lich Acererak is said to have made his abode. The perils of the jungle came soon after, bearing teeth, fangs, and venom to the intrepid explorers, but were pacified at every turn by Sheena's good nature and ability to befriend all animals. With Sheena's positive influence over the hostile nature of Chult's jungles, things were going well for the party. Sheena then dies in Session 3 to an ambush of 8 grung. Because f*** you, this is Tomb of Annihilation. No, this tale is about Gallow, a turtle paladin under an oath of redemption. Old, grumpy, and stubborn, Gallow is a lifelong resident of Chult, working as a guide out of Port Nyanzaru to lead adventurers through the jungle. As a follower of Saloon, he was dedicated to making sure adventurers in the jungle made it back home safely, and for a while, he was good at his job. But when Acererak's magic plagued the land, the jungles grew more violent, and Gallow found that he could not save his charges from the jungle's dangers. Failure after failure, Gallow saw many adventurers swallowed alive by the jungles, only to return to Port Nyanzaru alone. Colloquially, heading to the jungles with Gallow as your guide became known as being sent to the gallows. A different group under his watch had just perished to a grung ambush, but the old turtle was just too stubborn to die, so the grung captured him instead, unsure of what to do. Also in the grung's captivity were Go and Dove. The dwarven guide Musharib also perished in the ambush. Still sworn to bring back even one lost adventurer, Gallow agreed to escort Dove and Go to the lost city of Omu to see their task done. While imprisoned by the grung, they also freed a young gnome girl named Vivica, who was gifted with strange eldritch powers. Together, they broke free from their grung captors, reclaimed their supplies, and continued their journey. Trekking through the jungle was not nearly as easy as when Sheena was their guide, but true to his word, old Gallow kept the group alive through thick and thin. Along the way, the group comes upon the wreckage of a crashed airship, its crew scrambling to escape the tangled canopy where the pieces of the ship were suspended atop twisted branches. The party stepped in to aid in their rescue, but their sudden appearance rouses the nearby Girolons. As the apes descended upon the splintered vessel with primal might, Gallow took to the fray and warded off their thunderous fists, giving openings for Dove to let loose her angelic blade, while Elias and Vivica unleashed powerful magic. As the last of the Girolons is struck down, the crew salvages what they can and escapes northward towards Port Nyanzaru, thanking the party for the timely rescue. The party continued along the river southward. Along the way, they would find no shortage of trouble. A rather persistent and pesky Eblis would continue harassing the group to try and steal their food until the group had grown tired of its antics and decided to track and kill it. Further south, they met a man named Artis Simber and his strange reptilian companion he called Dragonbait. Artis implored the group for aid, to which they reluctantly agreed. While sailing down the river, the group were nearly spotted by a troop of Flaming Fist mercenaries, only barely escaping detection when Elias and Vivica use illusion magic to disguise the group as an unassuming large crate floating down the river on an unattended boat. After the group later eludes pursuing frost giants, Artus explains that they were pursuing him for a ring that he possessed, and he needed help to keep the ring out of their hands. Gallow plainly said, "No. We got enough trouble on our hands. We didn't need no damn frost giants on our asses. Now take your ring and find someone else to drag into your mess, dumbass." Shortly after, Elias vanishes into the jungles, never to be seen again. Coming across the ruined city of Umbala, we found a strange hermit living within who called herself Nanny Poo-Poo. Yes, that is part of the module. She asked us instead if we would hunt some disreputable terrafolk on her behalf. Seeing nothing to gain from her, we declined, but she left us with a warning of the dangers lurking further south. We did not heed these warnings, as we soon found ourselves beset upon by a zombie Tyrannosaurus Rex, at which point we knew the game was really out to kill us. Gallow took to the fray and raised his shield, far too stubborn and angry to die to some rotting lizard. While the Rex occupied itself trying to chew through Gallow's shell, Dove tears it apart with overwhelming radiant might. The threats did not cease, as the party was later found by a patch of shambling undead plants who were in pursuit of a young half-orc named Tango. With the group's already considerable zombie-killing prowess combined with Tango's own divine might, the party makes short work of the plants. Tango explains that she was sent by her church to deal with a Sararak and cleanse a death curse. With our goals aligning, we bring her along for the trip. Continuing southward, the group finds themselves stumbling into the ruins of Nangalore, whereupon Go set forth to explore the derelict palace for treasure, or failing that, some hint or lore as to the nature of the death curse. There instead they found carnivorous plants, as well as the dwelling place of Zalcor, the former queen of Omu. Exiled to Nangalore for her vanity, she had struck a bargain with demons, who in turn transformed her into a Medusa. The former queen immediately lashes out at the party for trespassing onto her domain, and before the party can make plans to escape, Dove is turned into stone from Zalcor's petrifying stare. A ceasefire is called when Vivica picks up an urn that appears to be important to the queen, and carefully, the party manages to negotiate and escape. As per their agreement, Go, Gallow, Tango, and Vivica are allowed to leave, but the petrified Dove remains in the queen's court. Having lost a friend due to his carelessness, Go vows to return once he has obtained some means of restoring Dove back to life. Ever determined, the group pressed on southward. As their travels took them deeper and deeper into the jungle, Vivica began to have disturbing dreams, visions of a great serpent that spoke to her. It wasn't long until the group finally arrived at the lost city of Omu. At the outskirts of the ruins, they meet with a tabaxi named Lucia, looking for a means to save her daughter, and recruits her into the team. Before the party could access the Tomb of the Nine Gods, where Sararak awaits, they must first visit 9 shrines across the ruined city and acquire 9 keystones. At the very first shrine, a devious trap separates the party from Lucia, leaving her alone to fend off against an ambush of terracotta warrior statues. Tragically, Gallow is unable to save her in time before she is struck dead by the shrine's guardians. There were still 8 more shrines to conquer before the party could enter the tomb and track down a Sararak. At the second shrine, they meet another mild-mannered tabaxi named Red Smoking Mirror, or Smoke for short. With Smoke's aid, the party is able to secure another keystone and move on to the next shrine, whereupon they meet an odd young sorcerer observing a still lake before them. The young man, named Cricket, was eager to help the party solve the puzzle of the shrine, which wasn't so much of a puzzle as it was a giant froghemoth that emerged from the lake to devour them one by one. Gallow once again proved too tough to chew, as their newly formed party rained down blows and spells upon the beast's back until it was felled. Cricket enthusiastically reached into the dead froghemoth's maw and extracted its flexible tongue, which he excitedly affixed to an immovable rod to create some manner of whip weapon. He insisted on traveling with the group to the Tomb of the Nine Gods to see what else he could dig up. Gallow wanted to refuse the odd sorcerer, as his short attention span and whims of fancy were more than likely to get them into trouble, but also knowing that Cricket would continue exploring the ruins with or without their help meant that he might meet the same fate as Lucia. Reluctantly, they agreed to take Cricket along. With a few more shrines to visit, the party continues trekking through the city of Omu, but find that they are not alone. Portions of the city have been claimed by a clan of Grung, and others by a tribe of kobolds. Attempting to pass through one of the Grung camps quickly escalates into an ambush. Gallow is barely able to fend off the Grung's overwhelming numbers, which buys Go enough time to employ some trickery and some divine magic to convince the Grung that he was some kind of god come to subjugate them into service. The Grung surrendered themselves to the new monkey god, and suddenly Go found himself with an army of poisonous frogmen at his disposal. It may have been a simple matter to wage war against the kobolds and wipe both tribes from the city, but a different complication arose. The kobolds had apparently been driven out of their home by an enormous plumed tyrannosaur called the King of Feathers. Plans were quickly drafted for the Grung to lay a trap to bring down the King of Feathers in a single coordinated strike. The plan required bait. Guess who had to do it? Acting for the second time in this adventure as a T-Rex's chew toy, Gallow nevertheless weathered the king's jaws, while the Grung launched their assault, bombarding the Tyrannosaur in a rain of spears as the party finished it off with blasts of magic. With the kobolds' home liberated, Go then unites the Grung and the kobold tribes beneath him, forming a cult with him as their god. No one liked where this was going, but at least it let us explore the rest of Omu unimpeded. Or so we thought. Vivica continues to have more dreams about enormous serpents and is shocked to wake up one morning to find that she has been transformed into a Yuan-Ti. As if on cue, this seems to have alerted the nearby Yuan-Ti cult, who attempt to ambush us and kidnap Vivica at every other shrine. With scores of their ambushers dead at our feet, the Yuan-Ti finally decide to attempt a diplomatic approach. A lone Yuan-Ti scout approached us, offering to escort the group into the lair of the cult's leader, Raz Nsi, a near-immortal Yuan-Ti half-blood gifted with powerful necromancy. His goal was the eventual resurrection of the serpent god Dendar, whom Vivica was unknowingly drawing her power from, and he likely required Vivica as a vessel for the primordial serpent's resurrection. When the party revealed that they were in Omu to stop a Sararak's death curse, Raz Nsi's interests suddenly shifted. As a millenniums-old sorcerer, Raz Nsi was also affected by the death curse, requiring almost all of his magic to keep a Sararak's curse from wrenching his soul from his resurrected body. Confident that Dendar will claim Vivica's body eventually, he simply lets the party leave to undo a Sararak's curse, handing them 2 of the needed keystones in the process. At long last, the path to the Tomb of the 9 Gods was open. Gallow, Go, Cricket, Vivica, and Tango were prepared to descend into the depths to hunt down the Dread Lich. Smoke, however, opts to split from the group and seek their interests elsewhere. Inside the tomb, the party meets a young sorceress named Lorelei, an escapee from Thay who is suffering from the effects of a vile experiment with only days to find a cure before she perishes. The party fights their way past a Sararak's assortment of undead thralls patrolling the hallways, scouring the chambers for keys to various puzzles and locks stopping their path. Within an old sarcophagus, the party finds an abandoned relic weapon buried within. Gallow picks up the Mace of Terror, confident that he can use its power to drive back the undead hordes. Upon touching the weapon, he feels his mind gripped by another being, as the old turtle becomes possessed by Wongo, one of the 9 trickster gods of Omu who were buried in this tomb by a Sararak himself. Wongo, furious and violent, began to shift Gallow's personality. Even more sour than before, Gallow loses his compassion for others and fights to serve only himself and his goals. Halting the party's progress was a deadly puzzle. A room allowing only one to enter is full of floor tiles depicting various symbols. Deciphering the symbols to determine a path forward was the only way to deactivate the trap and retrieve the needed key. Lorelei offers to step into the puzzle first, but a single misstep triggers the puzzle's trap. A cloud of deadly locusts fills the room, devouring Lorelei until only bones remain. Gallow can only watch as the death trap claims another life under his charge. Between fighting through the tomb and finding spots to rest, Cricket exhibits a peculiar behavior. In lieu of nothing, Cricket wastefully uses his magic to walk along the ceiling, outright refusing to walk on the floor. The odd sorcerer would deny to explain himself when pressed for answers. However, Cricket's floor phobia would soon betray him. Whilst the party examined another room, a trap is sprung, and the ceiling slides open to reveal a whirling blade trap as an anti-gravity spell is triggered, sending the party tumbling upwards into the steel maw above. Cricket, already on the ceiling, was first to fall upwards into the trap, but with quick thinking, he reached for his frog-hemoth tongue whip and latched onto a statue affixed to the floor, suspended only inches below the whirling steel death trap. While the rest of the party finds some way to fasten themselves to the walls and floor, Go leaps downward toward the statue and disables the trap. Despite the near-death experience, Cricket returns to his ceiling walking habits as the group descends further into the tomb. A few floors down, the party encounters a new ally, a vampire named Florence, who awakens in the tomb under mysterious circumstances, far from her home in Barovia. With her aid, the party is able to weather several ambushes from resurrected dwarves, flesh golems, and even an onslaught of monsters freed from a mirror of life trapping. Cricket is even able to obtain a Wand of Wonders, unknowingly housing the trickster god Papazotl, who subsequently possesses Cricket, intensifying the odd sorcerer's sense of curiosity and wanderlust. Before the party is able to continue, they meet with the hidden master of this floor, an ever-present voice belonging to a being named Belcours, who would frequently taunt the party and observe their movements, until at last they arrived at its chamber. Inside, the party is greeted by the petrified remains of adventurers unlucky enough to cross him, a grim and familiar sight to Gallow, Go, Vivica, and Tango, who survived the encounter at the ruins of Nangalore. Narrowly dodging a petrification beam from thin air, the party soon recognized the threat before them. Belcours was a beholder, rendered permanently invisible by a powerful magic spell. Gallow knew their party of spellcasters would stand no chance against the aberration, so he ordered a swift retreat, hoping that the beholder would be unable to chase the group through the tomb's narrow corridors. However, between the stone bricks of the tomb's walls and floors, lumps of flesh grow between the cracks embedded with Belcours' eyes. The eyes in the walls not only allow Belcours to observe the party as they walk his halls, but they can also channel his eye rays. Unaware of this trap, the party is caught off guard when a ceiling-bound eyeball suddenly launches a ray of disintegration, striking Florence in the back and reducing the vampire to dust in a matter of seconds. As the party flees for the exit, Tango struggles to keep up with the group and is nearly left behind. Gallow, whose mind is still racked by Wongo's violent grip, summons the willpower to resist the selfish spirit and turn around to aid Tango, to keep his promise and make sure his party comes home safely. Gallow makes it in time to shield Tango from a ray of fear that strikes the old turtle cold, and with a rush of adrenaline, the young half-orc returns the favor by carrying old Gallow with her to the exit stairs where the rest of the party waited. The party escapes with their lives, but at the cost of one more companion. Just another body left in Gallow's tracks, with not even a keepsake to bring back. As the group continued exploring the tomb, Cricket's curiosity got the better of him. While tinkering with sconces inside a small alcove, Cricket accidentally triggers the hidden puzzle, as he vanishes without a trace. Gallow quickly follows suit, triggering the same mechanism and finding that he's been teleported into another chamber with Cricket, with no light and no oxygen. The two of them together manage to configure the next part of the puzzle, which teleports both of them into a large circular chamber. They appear at the south of the chamber, which has similar teleportation circles at each cardinal direction. The sarcophagus lies at the center of the chamber, with a pathway leading to the sarcophagus from each circle, each pathway laden with broken clay shards. Aside from the shards, the sarcophagus, and the circles, there were terracotta warrior statues standing on each unoccupied tile. Without a word, Gallow gave Cricket a nod, and the young sorcerer immediately knew it was finally his time. Casting his favorite spell, Cricket walked up the walls and onto the ceiling, making his way until he was directly above the sarcophagus. With some careful use of Mage Hand, he's able to push open the sarcophagus's lid and retrieve its contents: a magic mandolin, some jewels, and the keystone to the next zone. With his treasure in tow, He continues along the ceiling, toward one of the teleportation circles, and exits the room. Gallow, however, had no means of bypassing the shards or the statues. Boldly, he casts a sanctuary spell on himself and marched forward onto the shard-laden path, confident that the mindless statues couldn't muster the willpower to strike against him. I could feel my DM giving me the death glare as he prepared to roll wisdom saving throws for every single statue I passed. Even the statues who beat their wisdom save still had to get past Gallow's ironclad defenses. With a cacophony of clay weapons bouncing off of the old turtle's shell harmlessly, Gallow exits the room with nary a scratch. The following floor was a mechanical maze. A control room with levers would rotate the adjacent rooms, allowing for limited but modular passage between them. At the door to this puzzle, we meet another strange being, an amiable, silent fellow who was himself much like a living tree, a homebrew race. He did not speak, so we just called him Tree. Attempting to configure the maze to discover every possible path led the group to several ambushes by the tomb's monsters, but with the aid of Tree's potent nature magic, they were easily dispatched. The group's persistence and thoroughness would be rewarded when they uncover two more relics. One puts Go into contact with the trickster god Nang Nang, and the other banishes Wongo from Gallow's mind as he is instead possessed by the Froghemoth god Kubazan, a chaotic good god of reckless heroism. As the group leaves the maze and heads down to the next floor, Tree just seems to freeze up. Whatever powers had brought life to this being of wood and bark just appears to have vanished, and the group is forced to continue without him. The next chamber below appeared to be some kind of living quarters. Within, we found cabinets full of herbs and fungus, odd trinkets, and among them, a set of 3 straw dolls. Tango is drawn to them, and upon picking them up, they speak to her and beg for her to take them out of the tomb. It is then when the chamber's masters appeared, 3 hag sisters by the names of Widow Groat, Baggy Nana, and Peggy Deadbells. The party attempts to negotiate their way past them, but the hag sisters are loyal to Acererak and would not allow the party to progress any further. Wielding powerful magic, the hag sisters assail the group with blasts of lightning, but Gallow takes advantage of their tight quarters to shield as many of his allies as he can, suffering the brunt of the damage so the rest of the group can focus on destroying the hags. While Gallow tanks lightning bolt after lightning bolt, Go proves too agile to blast with magic and takes the opportunity to eviscerate the hags with decisive sneak attacks. At long last, the party was ready to descend into the final chamber. There within was Acererak's vile creation, the Soulmonger. A container suspended above a moat of lava connected by 3 adamantium bridges. The Soulmonger entrapped the souls of the dead, preventing them from passing on to the afterlife, nor from returning to their bodies via resurrection. Before the party could decide how to deal with it, a floating mass appeared before them. It is a grotesque, malformed embryo of undead flesh, attached to the Soulmonger by a series of umbilical cords. The Atropole, a fetus of an unborn god, nurtured by Acererak by feeding it the souls collected by the Soulmonger with the intent of birthing a new god of death. The party braced themselves as they prepared to endure the Atropole's assault. Unleashing blasts of necrotic energy, the party's combined divine gifts managed to resist the Atropole's foul magic. With a coordinated effort, the party splits off to sever the Atropole's connection to the Soulmonger, cutting off its source of power while the rest of the party bombards it with radiant energy. The Atropole soon falls to the party's combined assault, its unbirthed flesh sinking into the lava below. Not long after, the Dread Lich Acererak finally appears. With his Atropole slain, he had to personally ensure that the party would cause no more damages to his plan, for he still possessed the Soulmonger. Before Acererak can unleash any of his vile magics, Gallow makes a daring charge, coming face to face with the undead mastermind himself. Having observed the party's progress until this point, Acererak knew well enough of Gallow's impenetrable shell, and offered the old turtle the final death he so stubbornly refused. With a flick of his bony finger, Acererak unleashed a sphere of annihilation, an ever-consuming void that swallowed all that it touched. Gallow just barely tumbles out of its path, inches away from certain death. Thinking quickly, he turned to Acererak and tackled the Lich. grasping his bony body between his mighty turtle hands. With a mighty heave, Gallow hurls Acererak toward the Sphere of Annihilation, a fate that would destroy the Lich's soul regardless of his phylactery. Acererak then escapes from the sphere using a legendary resistance. But now that Gallow was weaponizing the sphere against him, Acererak snapped his fingers and banished the sphere before teleporting away, knowing that the turtle was far too dangerous to be let near him. Acererak turns to the rest of the group, aiming to unleash the sphere on the party's less durable members, but before he can resummon the sphere, Go leaps across the adamantium walkways, lunges at Acererak, and snags the talisman of the sphere from his neck, dropping it into a pool beneath as it sinks into the magma. Incensed by the monkey's audacity, Acererak wastes no more time and utters a word of death. In an instant, Go feels his veins go cold and limp as his soul drifts toward the Soulmonger. But within that instant, his soul is anchored back into his body. In preparation for this fight, Tango had cast Death Ward on Go, and the spell managed to protect Go from Acererak's power word kill. Foiling Acererak's most powerful magic twice now, the party continues bombarding the Dread Lich with blasts of radiant energy, while struggling to resist against waves of overwhelming necrotic energy. With a final concentrated effort, the party finally brings down Acererak, reducing the Dread Lich into a cloud of ashes. Knowing full well that Acererak would return only in a matter of days, the party begins hurling various vases and urns into the lava beneath, hoping to find his phylactery. Meanwhile, Gallow and Go get to work to dislodge the Soulmonger and sink it into the magma below. Turns out the Soulmonger itself was Acererak's phylactery, and as the magma eats away at its metal shell, the souls trapped within are freed, returning to the resurrected or passing on to the next plane. Even Sheena got one last goodbye to her friends. With Acererak finally dead and a death curse lifted, the party finds a hidden room with a teleportation circle that takes them out of the Tomb of the Nine Gods. The trickster gods, Kubazan, Papazodal, and Nang Nang, each departed, grateful to the heroes who took down Acererak and freed them from the tomb. All that was left was the journey home, and some unfinished business to tie up. The group stops by the ruins of Nangalore, and now that Go was powerful enough, he finds Dove's petrified remains and restores her to life using a greater restoration spell. Dove rejoins the group as they return successfully to Port Nyanzaru, all except for Go, who instead goes back to the jungle to rule as the god king of Omu. At long last, Gallow manages to bring his team home, where he can hang up his shield and take a long-deserved rest, until the next time his guidance is needed. That's the end of Gallow's tale. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this story and if you'd like to hear more like it. Don't forget to leave this video a like, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more anime and game content from SugarPunch. Our channel is supported entirely on Patreon, so we can keep our videos ad-free. If you'd like to support SugarPunch, be sure to subscribe to our Patreon for early access to future videos. I may be I, and I'll see you next adventure.